Hello, everyone, to the Endurance Performance Open Learning Show. I'm your host, Ron George, and in this episode, we have another special guest from the Indian triathlon scene. He is a young athlete, so this will be appealing to the young athletes there. He's also quite a mover and shaker on the Instagram, on the social media of the world. So let's welcome Mihir Deo. Mihir, thank you for joining us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hi, Mihir. Okay, so for those of you who don't know Mihir, he has quite a story. He is based in Pune, Maharashtra, right now. Am I right, Mihir? You're in Pune,
Yes, correct.
and
Yep.
he is pursuing his master's in electronic science. I presume that's electrical engineering, or is that a more of a technical
Uh, so in India,
electronics?
the science and engineering fields are completely different. So I'm in the
Ah,
science field, pure science.
okay. I see. Okay. So you like the science? I mean, is it applied science? Are you training to become an engineer or more towards the tech side of things?
More towards the technical side.
Technical side. Okay. So wow, that's great. I didn't know they did that in India. That's great that they divide the streams like that. So Mihir
Yeah.
started his sporting career, if you want to call it, with mountain biking. This is quite interesting. Most triathletes are start off with running because that's a sport that most people are familiar with. But Mihir is was more into mountain biking, um, and then you moved on to road cycling. I presume he did some road cycling competitions, and then he was fond of duathlon, so he ended up doing duathlons for a little bit before he took up triathlon. And now his main discipline is the 70.3 distance. One of his highlight performances was in Ironman Dubai 2020, 70.3. Mihir, you were one of the top in your age group. I think number five or number six, if I'm not wrong, and certainly quite high up there in among the Indians with a 433. Am I right, or is it a 444? So
444. Yes.
444. Okay, that's a splendid performance on your first outing out here in Dubai. But before that, you also took part in Ironman Oman. So you are familiar with the whole Middle East, competing in the Middle East.
Yeah.
What what year was that, Mahir? Which year was that?
Ironman
Did you
Oman
fourth
was in
place in Ironman?
2019. So it was
2019. Okay.
in 2019. That was their first edition that they actually organized 70.3 in
Oh
Oman.
wow, wow. Okay, so you were already here. I mean, for the first one, that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
do you have some? Do you have any family members here or in the Middle East? I mean, how did you want to come and who facilitated that travel and stuff? Is
So Oman was a completely new experience. I didn't have anybody there,
Yeah.
but that was actually my first trip out of India too. I had never traveled abroad before I went to Oman, so that was a completely new experience for me. And carrying the bike, carrying all my equipment, that was
Hmm.
another, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
say task, but it was a challenge. It's not easy to travel with such equipment when you're traveling abroad for the first time. And yeah, so at the airport it was a little challenging because I didn't know the way the systems worked over there, the
Hmm.
transport systems, and I was actually quite I was on a tight budget, I would say. So I
Yeah.
really couldn't spend a lot of money on cabs, on transport. So yeah, it was a good learning experience, I would say. And the race itself, that we'll get to, but yeah, it was a very good learning experience when I traveled to Oman for the first time. When
Very
it
good.
came to Dubai, I actually have my mom's cousin staying there,
Ah,
so I have relatives in Dubai, and
sure.
I wanted to do Dubai in 2019 itself, but like we mentioned before, I'm still studying and I had my exams going on just when Ironman Dubai was declared in
Sure.
2019.
2019.
So
Yeah.
I couldn't take part in that.
Yeah. As I was saying, you have. you are familiar with the travel to the Middle East through Oman. So I guess on your second outing to the
Yes,
Middle East to Dubai, you were a bit
it
more
was.
familiar.
I was a
Um,
bit more familiar. It was easier, and my I call her my Masi. We call her Masi
okay.
in our
Yeah, yeah,
language.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So my Masi made it much easier for me to get through the challenges at the airport and get to her place safely. Ron, I can't hear you. I think you've been muted.
Yeah, sorry. As I was saying, it calms the nerves when you have someone backing you, and
Oh,
you
absolutely.
can then just focus on the race.
On the race,
Um,
yes.
that's that's excellent. So just really quick here. Hang on a minute. Okay, so then you took part in the Goa State Senior Triathlon Championships. That is also a highlight. In fact, this I'm reading this off your sponsors webpage. In fact, they've done a nice job of listing out your highlight competitions, which makes it easy. Goa State
Yeah.
Senior Triathlon Champion. You were the champion of this race. Which year was this, Mihir?
This was in 2019 itself.
Also in 2019.
This
Okay.
was when I was back from Oman and I wanted to try my hand at the Triathlon Nationals in India.
Ah, okay. Very, very good. And you obviously like duathlons, which is something of my it's my cup of tea as well. I don't swim, by the way, so duathlon is I'm very fond of that sport. You've taken part in over
I see.
10 duathlons and never lost a podium. Very nice. Uh, and in the midst of all this, you also took part in an ultra cycling race, Deccan Cliffhanger,
Yes.
643 kilometers, and you set a record timing. I think that was a more of a team race. Was it? You were part of a team, and you guys set a
Yeah.
record
So we were
for that.
we were a 4-person team in relay, and this race is actually quite famous in India
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
it's the oldest ultra cycling race in India, and now a couple of new ones have come up, but this is the one which is the most popular because
Hmm.
it ends in Goa too, which is completely a tourist and a holiday place, so everyone enjoys that. And
Yeah, it's like
so
a
this
stepping stone
race
for other bigger
was
races, I guess. Like people who go on to
correct.
Ram and stuff, they always have the checked off
Ram,
this Deccan Cliffhanger at some point in this.
exactly. So this is like
Yeah,
a small learning to get to ultra cycling, like pure ultra cycling.
yeah,
But we just wanted to do this race just for fun, just to experience what ultra cycling is like.
sure.
And we did this in relay because taking part in it in the solo category would be it would hamper our performance for the short distance races, so we
Hmm.
didn't really want to do that. And
Mm.
when we were in a 4-person team, it would be about 150 kilometers of riding
Yeah,
for each one of us
yeah, yeah.
in short and quick bursts, so that was more suited to our style of training and racing.
Wow.
So that's how we decided to do.
Mihir, how old are you now?
I am 23. I just
23.
turned
That's
23 in July.
very good. At this young age, you already know how the too much endurance can shift the balance from the short duration. Yeah, yeah, that's very true. If you put a lot of emphasis on long duration endurance, then you can. It's a seesaw effect. You lose some of your short distance performance abilities as well. So that's good. You recognize that. That's very thoughtful of you to say. Um, Mihir, were you in the mountain bike? Actually, I want to start off with this. You started off in mountain biking. Did you? Um,
Yes.
did you? I mean, did you win any competitions, or I mean, did you find that endurance was something natural to you in mountain biking? And what kind of competitions were you involved in?
So I'll go right back to when I started cycling.
Yeah.
So I started cycling in school when I was in the ninth and 10th grade. So my school tuition was really far. The
Okay.
coaching classes I used to go to study, it was really far. And at
Yeah.
that age, we weren't allowed to ride a two-wheeler, a motorbike. So we had to travel either on
Road to
a
school.
bicycle or by the local transport, which is
Yeah.
bus. And
Wow.
buses were really not easily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
at that time. Even if
Mm-hmm.
they would be at long intervals of time which wouldn't match my coaching class timings. So I just had to travel on bicycle, and
Mm.
getting to class and back every day, it unknowingly built a slight
Yeah.
base
Yeah.
for my cycling future. And I really used to enjoy going to class and coming back from class on bicycle.
Yeah.
And after I finished my 10th grade, when I was allowed to actually get a motorbike, instead of buying a motorbike, I asked my parents to get me a new mountain bike, because the one I
Mm.
used to commute on was just really old, and I couldn't really, go for long rides on it because it was
Sure.
old, heavy, its parts were getting rusted. So I wanted a better bike. And yeah, so then I started taking part in the weekend group rides, the community rides that used to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, go for long rides on weekends.
Yeah.
I started taking part in those, and I realized that these slightly longer rides, which at about that time were like 50 or 40K,
Sure.
60K maybe, those distances came easier to me than some of the other people over there.
Mm.
So I felt like I slightly had the upper hand, because I had
Mm-hmm.
that base from a couple of years just by commuting.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to just take part in a small weekend race, a local race, which was a mountain biking plus a trekking race. So it was like a cross country duathlon, I would say.
Sure. Sure.
And I ended up getting the victory in that race.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that was beginner's luck, but that really boosted my confidence to take part in more races and try and keep getting better.
Wow. That's
And that's
amazing.
how I kept going. And as for as long as I had that mountain bike, I kept taking part in races on that mountain bike. So there were a lot of XC or cross country races that I took part in. There were a lot of road races in the
Mm-hmm.
MTB category which I took part in. That's
Mm-hmm.
quite common here in India. And after that, then I decided that I liked the road cycling, the road competitions more, for which I needed a road bike.
Mm.
And that's how then I moved to road cycling.
Yeah, that's a good thing to for our listeners, the young ones especially. Many of them, have mountain bikes because it's cheaper to get and it's more accessible. But then they complain, "Oh, I don't have a road bike."
Yes.
Well, start getting good at the mountain bike first, and then you can transition
Yeah.
slowly. And you don't just get a road bike handed to you. And in fact, I think
Yeah.
in many Indian homes there are mountain bikes available. It's you can easily get one. And so, like
Oh,
like
yes.
here, I mean, if you want to build up your endurance, yeah, riding to school is a great way to start, or college. So that's great. Mihir, I'm looking at your Instagram. I just want to highlight this that you are a Red Bull India athlete. It's certainly shown on your profile here. You have Steadfast Nutrition as your sponsor as well, and then some other names like Victoria India. So this is, I mean, big names. How did you partner with these people? I mean, is it just did they start noticing your performance and approach you to see if you would want to be an ambassador for them, or how did that take place?
So initially, I didn't post as frequently on Instagram as I used to on Facebook. So I actually started posting out on Facebook, and I had a lot more friends on Facebook.
Yeah,
And I think when you comment on somebody's Facebook photo, their friends can see it.
yeah,
So when somebody commented on me, their entire friends section saw, and that's how I think the recognition kept building up. So Facebook is actually a
mm,
pretty powerful tool when it
mm,
comes to
mm-hmm,
getting yourself out there.
mm.
That's how I started out. And Steadfast Nutrition was actually the brand to approach me first. And Aman Puri, the founder and the head of Steadfast Nutrition, he spoke to me and he asked me if I would like to collaborate with them. And that's how we started out. And it suited me. The product suited me. Their recovery products, their during the workouts products
Sure.
suited me
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
So I decided to stay with them and keep trying and improving my performance with their help. When it comes to the other brands, I approached them. uh, Red Bull India, I approached them. Victoria India had an online
Okay.
application. I just filled out the application, and they got with me on call and they asked me about my goals,
Yeah.
about my achievements, and
Okay.
that's how things move forward.
Wow. So you're a really a go-getter in that respect. You went and approached these guys, and you were pretty confident that you had something to show. And
Yes.
so you presented yourself, and they were very interested to work with you. I guess this is again. This was this all in 2019 time frame or
Oh, this was all in after 2019 and 2020.
2019? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when you established a certain level, so it wasn't like as soon as you got off the mountain bike, you went and got sponsors.
Exactly. So I started mountain bike competitions in 2014,
Ah, okay.
but to get these sponsors, it took about 4 to 5 years. So it
Sure.
takes time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And something to highlight is sponsors are looking for matured individuals who can represent them. So you have to
Correct.
be, you have to be slightly mature as well, not just really good in your sport. So
Yes.
that's great. And Red Bull India certainly is it's a big name. So congratulations on that, and hope that
Thank you.
relationship is you can continue with that. That's great. You're an inspirational guy on Instagram. Very very popular. 4,000 followers. A lot of people are getting inspired with your posts, Mihir. I certainly saw some of your plyometrics, and I was like, wow, my legs were shaking looking at that. But yeah, it's great. So having said all that, Mihir, we looked at your how you got into the sport, and then finally how you started doing triathlons. Um, do
Yes.
you? I mean, I don't know if you logged into the last call with Sujay, and he talked about how
Yes.
you went. He took a 3-year window, and he described how he went each year, how he progressed, and set targets for himself so he could get to the Ironman Dubai. I mean, did you did you take something of that approach? I mean, did you feel like, oh, okay, 2020, I want to go for Ironman Dubai, and I have such and such targets, and so did you plan from 2019 onwards for that goal, and when did you and how did you do it?
So in 20, I actually started training for Oman in 2018 because Oman was in the early Jan or Feb of 2019 or first March.
Yeah,
Oman was in first March
yeah,
2019. So that's
yeah,
pretty early in the year. So I had to start training in 2018.
sure.
So when I actually started training for Oman, I didn't even know if I would be able to complete the race because that was my first triathlon, first 70.3 distance, and it was such a humongous task at that time. So I didn't really have any goal as such.
Hmm.
I just wanted to complete it in a respectable time,
Yeah,
and I've noticed that the races that take part for the first time in any country or any state or city,
sure.
I did a little research and saw that not a lot of participants show up to the first edition.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I was hoping that if I had some good luck, maybe there wouldn't be a lot of strong participants in my category, and maybe get a roll down slot to the world
Yeah,
championship, something
sure.
like that, like a highly ambitious goal, but it was up there. So that's how I started training for Oman, and the like I said, the main goal was to just get a respectable time,
Hmm.
see, learn, observe how the
Hmm.
other athletes perform,
Sure.
because it was the first time for me traveling abroad, like I mentioned. So I
Hmm.
had
Hmm.
never actually met any foreign athletes,
Yeah,
and I didn't know what the competition was like.
yeah.
So I got to observe a lot from Oman,
Mm.
and then after Oman, then came the nationals. So I didn't really think about Ironman Dubai. Just
Mm.
after Oman, I
Yeah.
wanted to try my hand at the nationals. Nationals, unfortunately, in 2019, I couldn't complete because I had two consecutive
Sorry,
flat
sorry, Mihir.
tires.
Where was the national? Was it in Chennai? No, Chennai was in 2020. Where'd you do the
This was in
nationals?
Kerala.
This was in Kerala. Okay, in 2019 was in Kerala. Okay.
Yes. Yep. And again, that was the first time I was participating in the nationals,
Hmm.
and the nationals has the strongest field in India. Like,
Sure.
that is the race you go to if you want the strongest
Oh yeah, yeah,
competition.
yeah.
There
Absolutely.
are a lot of local. there are a lot of local triathlons, 70.3s, even full iron distances, sprint distance, Olympic distance. A lot of them are there on a local level, but not a lot of competition shows up there. So the main
Mm-hmm.
competition is at the nationals. So I
Sure.
just wanted to see where I stood in
Mm-hmm.
that field.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, I couldn't complete that
Because
race
of the
because
flats.
I had because of the flat. So even if I had one flat, I could have repaired it because I had carried my puncture repair kit and a spare tube. But two of them, I didn't have any
Mm.
option but to
Yeah, you lost a
uh,
lot of time anyway then.
yeah. So there was no point. Then after that, I did a little research about Dubai, about the course, about the weather,
Yeah.
and plus I had my Masi there. So the logistics also, the cost, which also always plays a big factor.
Oh, of course.
I did a little research about that, and I decided that Dubai would be something that I would like to do, and that's how I started training for Dubai. So
Mm.
after I decided to start training for Dubai, my training was completely for that race.
Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Right, right. So,
So
Mir, I'm tempted to ask here, did you have a coach in place, or you knew exactly what you needed to do, and you self coached yourself? How did you?
uh, for Oman and for Dubai, I had a coach. I did have a coach when I started. When I started road cycling, in fact, just before getting
Yeah,
into triathlons,
yeah.
I got my coach then. His name is Chaitanya Velhal. He's based in Pune itself,
Okay.
and he started training me for the 70.3 distance. And for Dubai also, I did have a coach, so he used to send me a training plan every week, and I just used to follow it on Training Peaks, which is
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
world over, is recognized world over.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was as simple as that. He used to just send me a plan. I used to follow it. I used to, trust the plan, trust the process, and just keep putting in the work.
Hmm. I'm just break out some stats for us. So, what was your weekly, I guess, hours duration, and how did you break it out into the three? Yeah, maybe just it'll help some of our listeners to just put things into perspective. After the nationals, I mean, in your preparation towards Dubai.
For Dubai. So the thing was, like I said, I'm a student, so I had to attend college. We have compulsory
Yeah,
attendance,
yeah, yeah.
and being in the electronic section, in the technical section, I had to attend the practical sessions also because that's where we would get to learn the most. So every day I would lose about 6 to 7 hours in college itself, and I assist my dad in his business also. We have a
Okay.
business in medical equipments.
Uh-huh.
We deal and distribute in medical equipment, so I used to assist him for work also, and I used to
Sure.
manage training also.
Hmm.
So I if you compare me to some of the foreign athletes, you can say that my mileage is like their warm up. My mileage and my training are like the warm up. But just to put it in
Yeah.
simple words, I used to train for about 10 hours a week, nine to
10
ten
hours a
hours a
week.
week.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That's pretty
and that
decent. I
would be
mean, for even for working professionals, that's pretty respectable. 10 hours a week.
yeah. And I used to I hate swimming. Honestly, I just hate swimming because I've never really had a swimming background. And for Oman, actually, I started learning swimming in 2018, so I didn't know how to swim before that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And in 2018 June July, I started training, and I started with breaststroke naturally,
Hmm.
and then I moved on to freestyle. So
Okay.
Ironman Oman, I clocked about 38 minutes for the swim, I would say, and that was a mixture of
Wow.
breaststroke and freestyle.
Yeah.
So I never really put in the work, I would say, the mileage that I need to improve my swim, because once the winters are here, then it gets really cold, and I just
Hmm.
don't feel like getting in the water. But
Hmm.
I still used to get in, but not get in the mileage that I was required to.
Required to. Uh-huh.
And so basically, I was pretty lazy with the swim. I would say I put in the most effort on the bike. The
Yeah.
bike is, like we've talked about. I've really liked cycling since the beginning,
Sure.
so I've put in work. So maybe about 10 hours of the week, from the 10 hours, I would say about 6 hours was only cycling in the week.
Right.
And for both, for Oman and for Dubai, I was injured both of the times for the run.
Yeah.
So I was again new to the sport of running, so I didn't really know what shoes to wear, what terrain to run on. You know, all the technical stuff that you need to avoid injury. I was all new to that, and it all just comes from learning. So I had a bad case of shin splints during Oman. So I would, you know, if you ask me, if you check my Garmin activities, I got in about 200 kilometers for the year mileage, running mileage.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely nothing.
So you were on new shoes and yet you got the shin splints.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Because usually,
So
I mean, it's something to do with the shoes, but yeah.
At the time, I didn't know that I have a low arch. I needed to strengthen more. I needed to get overpronation shoes. You know, all the technical stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was all new to me. So that all now everything is fine. Luckily, I hope it stays fine. Fingers crossed. But yeah, so that was new to me, and 200 kilometers of mileage just for Oman for the run, and I clocked about 1 hour 48 minutes naturally.
Sure.
For the brick run. Again, then it was a learning experience about what I had to do, what I had to avoid. And for Dubai, I again didn't have a lot of mileage because I was still getting injured. New injuries were coming up, small injuries, but they just kept coming up. And I got in about 600 kilometers for the year. So that was 3 times from what I did for Oman.
Sure.
Which is still an improvement, but it's still not the ideal mileage that I would, you know, like to do. And 600 kilometers for the year. I was for Dubai, I trained for about, I would say, 13 to 14 hours a week. I managed to get in some more time because I learned a lot from Oman. I learned about the kind of hard work the foreign athletes were doing and where I stood among them. And, you know, I was really lacking with putting in the work, putting in mileage, you know, all those things. So Oman was a completely, you know, pure and whole and soul learning experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is why I got better throughout the year in 2020. For Dubai 2020, I got better in 2019. And I did more races. You know, races are the best way to find out where you're lacking, what mistakes you're doing, so that you don't repeat the same mistakes for your A race or your final race. So a lot of practice races in the year, which I hadn't done for Oman. And yeah, so I got a power meter also. And that completely took my training to a next level. Power training is something that is highly underrated and unrecognized in India.
How long would you say you trained with power? Was it a couple of months or 6 months or?
So I actually got a power meter just a month before Oman, which was in 2019.
Oh wow, okay.
But you know, being so new to power, I didn't really have an idea. I didn't have a chance to get used to power, to negative splitting, to power workouts. So that is also one thing I learned in Oman, that I shouldn't have used the power meter, because that actually screwed up my bike performance a little bit, I would say. I positive split big time in Oman.
Yeah.
And as I trained throughout the year in 2019, I kept getting better with power. I got more used to the concept of negative splitting, which is ideal in a triathlon. And yeah, that's how I kept getting better. I put in more work, and that's how the timing improved. For
one question.
Yes.
How do you say the having a power meter decreases your performance?
Oh no, I didn't get your question. How does it decrease my performance or increase?
No. You mentioned the getting a power meter was a mistake or something like that just before
Yes.
the race.
Yes, because it was a completely new concept to me, getting and training with power. And it's something like getting something new just before a race, or trying something new just before a race is not recommended, because you need time to adapt to it, you need time to get used to it, and power training is something that is so precision based that few changes in it can hamper your performance. So that's what happened with me. I wasn't used to power, and I decided to take a power meter and go all out in a race, just looking at power data and forgetting about RPE, forgetting about how I feel on the bike, and that's what hampered my performance.
Yeah, very important thing here. I mean, what he's saying is that, I mean, usually if you're racing, um, looking at all these devices kind of hampers with your performance. I mean, it can.
Right.
But you primarily use your RP, which is your perceived exertion, and the other
Yes.
devices become supplementary. But in the training, it's different. You can use those devices, but mostly
Exactly.
now, even just recently, the Tour de France champion, what's his name, the Slovakian guy, Slovenian. He went and
Right.
did the final time trial on stage. Was it 20 or 19, I believe,
Yes.
without any power meter, and it was big news. Oh, he didn't have a power meter, but this is. I mean, back in the day, everyone was doing it. No one had a power meter, so
Yeah.
it's not like it's not so strange. It doesn't have to be. You race with your perceived exertion as the primary thing, because
And
you
he
never know how you'll
actually,
feel. Hmm.
exactly, and that the winner of the Tour de France is younger than me by 2 years. Tadej Pogacar. He's
That's
just 21
Pogacar.
years old.
Pogacar. That's the name I was trying to get. Pogacar. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's so young, and he has the best coaches in the world. In spite of all that, he went to the race without a power meter deliberately.
Yes.
They wanted him they wanted to free him from the devices and let him do his thing, and he
Yep.
came out with a wonderful performance. So I think
And
that's
but
what Mihir was saying. Not necessarily that it will always hamper you, but in the races you listen to your feelings as well. Yeah, go ahead, Srinadi. What else?
how do you say power meter helped in training? Like, what exactly differs from like
Okay,
riding by feel or
one,
heart rate?
one second, Srinadi. That's a good question. Just keep it towards the end because we got some topics to cover, and he will certainly take your question in the end when we have
Okay,
the.
no problem.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
sure.
just get through the meat of the session here. Um, so that's great. I mean, just as a recap, Mihir is saying that in 2018 is when he took up swimming, and at
Yes.
I presume his age was 21 then. At 21 he had reasonable motor skills to pick it up. So it wasn't like it was and come to 2020 Ironman, he did 36 minutes for the swim, which is not bad. And certainly the biking was a strength there, 219.59 for 90K, which equates to around, I just checked, that's 38 kilometers an hour, 38.8, 38, 39 average. I don't know if the distance was exactly 90, but I mean that's amazing for that much, that long. And after that, you put on a run of 140 for a half marathon,
Hmm.
ending with 444. That's pretty amazing. So for those of you listening and who are uh, kind of discouraged about the whole swimming thing, it's never too late to start, and you can always start now if you want it. Okay. Um, so so we talked about your training for Dubai. So just want to go back. You mentioned about meeting all these foreign competitors. Um, you remember the nationalities? I mean, were they more Middle Eastern, more British? Who are you competing with that really put an
Most
impression
of
on you?
them, most of them that I saw were European.
European.
I didn't get to meet a lot of Middle East athletes,
Yeah.
ironically. Uh, most of them were European who came to the Middle East races,
Sure.
and I spoke to them, and I talked to them about when they started and the kind of work that they had put in to get where they were at.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when I realized that India is really lacking when it comes to starting early.
Mm.
These guys who are clocking sub 4 hours, who are my age, for
Yeah.
the 70.3 distance, they're clocking 355, 358, and they still have another 10, 12 years to go strong, before they would ideally move to full distance.
Sure.
So, so that's when they told me that they had started when they were in school when they were kids. That's when they actually took up one of the three sports at least, if not three, and they really put in the work consistently since then. So that's where I realized that the only way to keep improving is consistency. And for India specifically, for the athletes to get to that level, is to
Sure.
start early. The earlier you start, the more mature your muscles are going to get over time, and that's how you're going to go up there with the big guys
So Mihir,
in the big leagues.
what age would you say, or from those conversations with them, what age do you think would be best to get into try for performance? What is the early age you're talking about?
Sorry, your voice got cut. I couldn't hear you.
No, I was saying that you talked to some of the Europeans and you realized how important it is to start
Yes.
early. So at what age do
Yes.
you think is the right age to get into triathlon?
Uh, that is a very subjective question, but personally I would say that start, if you're a parent listening, and if you want to get your
Hmm.
child into triathlon, I would say throw them into the pool as soon as they start walking. That's how early you
Okay.
should start.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very good answer.
And get them to learn swimming while growing up, at a very very tender age, when they can start walking or when they can start running, when they
Mm,
have that capability to think, and when they have those motor skills, that's when you get them into the pool. Because I've noticed that swimming is a sport that really builds and improves your engine, your base,
yeah.
and your lung capacity, and the other two sports just come easier to you if you're a
Mm,
swimmer from the beginning.
I see. So do you think that those who
And when it comes
more
to
biased
running and
towards swim?
cycling, I would say, oh
Sorry,
yes, to starting early, I would say,
there is some lag here, Mihir. As I was saying, do you think the swimmers have more of an advantage in triathlon because you say that they get more of an aerobic base from swimming? Do you think that's true
uh,
or
personally I think it's true. if
okay?
if you've started really early, and
Hmm.
if you've been a swimmer since the beginning, I think you have a slight edge over the other athletes, just because you have a bigger and more efficient engine from the start.
Wow. Okay. That's that's great. Early.
Again, this is my personal opinion. This is a very
Yeah. No,
subjective
it's
topic, I would say.
and there are, in fact, you're not at all wrong. There are many parents now putting their kids from a very early age into triathlon, and this is something we see here in also in Dubai. Um, and to
Yes,
encourage that, there are also competitions for these junior athletes, for these young guys, and also
correct.
clubs to cater to the young children. For example, swimming clubs. So you're nothing you've said is wrong. Absolutely agree. Get an
Hmm.
early start. And what about rest and recovery? You did mention you were studying and you didn't have so much time to train. Do you think that was a hidden blessing in that you perhaps didn't throw yourself out there for longer than you needed, and you sort of maybe had more recovery?
Maybe I would say, it. That's a very tough question to answer, because ideally I would like to train more too, but I would like to recover more too. So I want
Mm,
everything.
yeah.
But yeah, definitely, it held me back, I would say. uh, if I had trained more, maybe I would be more injured than I already was at the time.
Mm,
Stuff would be worse.
mm-hmm,
And personally, I feel that undertraining is always better than overtraining.
mm-hmm, hmm.
Always.
Yeah.
Because for when you're talking about a race, if you're undertrained for a race, you can always push yourself and rise up to the challenge. But
Hmm.
if you're overtrained and you
Yeah.
end
You
up
can't do it.
burning out in a race, there's no
Yeah.
coming back from that.
Yeah.
Once you're gone, you can't do anything.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
And
I think
that's
that was a good blessing for me, like you said, a blessing in disguise. Rest and recovery, it's something, I've noticed that athletes in India, they focus a lot on the training. They
mhm.
go hard in training every day, day in, day out. but
Yeah.
they don't focus on rest and recovery as much as they should. From what I have read and seen, everybody trains, like the main competitors, all of them train. So you're not really getting an edge over the others in training, but what you do off the bike or off the run, off the swim, in recovery, that is where you grow, and that is where you actually get an edge over the others. So I would say that the rest and recovery is more important than the training itself.
That's a great insight there. In fact, even I consider the same. Training is only 50% of the equation. So training plus rest equals performance. So
Correct.
if you don't have the 50% of that equation, then you only have 50, you only go with 50%, and the other stuff is you're
Yes.
absolutely right. If you're already close to the edge, you can't do much in the race, and then that it might just break your career even, for example, an injury. Um,
Correct.
and that's
Exactly.
it's so true. I mean, in the social media world and Instagram and all that, you're right. Everyone's displaying their training, and everyone wants to be that macho, that Rambo, and showcase,
Correct.
what they're doing in the training. But it's not so sexy to put up a post where lying down with your legs stretched. So, but it's so subliminal. It's just the rest is so important. And we certainly have no clue, unless people openly talked about it, how much rest, how much sleep these athletes are getting. Some of these athletes who spend so much time on social
Absolutely.
media, etc., on top of all their training, and so much commitments they got to do. And that's one reason I stay away from Instagram myself. But
Yeah.
that's a great point, Mihir. I mean, let's talk about the athletes you're competing with in India. What do you know about them?
Yeah.
Do you feel they are getting enough recovery, or they're also in the same kind of boat, uh, playing it very close?
Mm, sorry, your voice got cut. I couldn't really.
No,
There was a lag, so
but
I couldn't really get you.
your competitors, you certainly know or track who you're competing with in India, and you're saying that all of them are also training as much as you. So, do you feel you try and get more rest than them, more recovery than the do you, or are they all aware of the fact that they need rest and recovery?
Okay. So the thing is, my competitors, most of them, or I would say 90% of them, have started triathlons or at least one of the sports competitively much before than I have.
Okay.
Starting early, what we talked
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Most of them have started very early, and I started about 2.5 to 3 years ago, which is still quite new. I'm still very new to the sport. But my main competitors, like at the national field, like we talked about, most of them are from the Indian Army, the services,
Okay.
and they have been at it for a very long time. I
Mm.
spoke to the guy who won national gold, and he said his first triathlon was in 2004.
Okay. What
I didn't even know how to hold a pen in 2004. I was
is
that
he?
young.
Is he the guy from the north? What's his name?
Bishwarjit, yes,
Yeah, Bishwajit. Yeah. He even won the Goa one year, didn't he?
correct. He won the Ironman Goa 70.3.
70, the first one, the first race.
Yes. So I
Yeah.
actually spoke to him, and he's been at it for a really long time.
Mm.
And I've just recently entered the sport. So yeah, one thing I would say is that technically, my competitors, most of them, they don't focus a lot on the numbers, the data.
Okay.
It's more like uh, it's like just training hard. It's
Mm.
I would say it's not as smart training as it should be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I said, triathlon is a new sport. It's a complex sport when it comes to optimal performance, which involves a lot of numbers, a lot of statistics, a lot of supervision. And right now in India, I feel that's missing. It'll come. It's coming. Uh, it'll come with
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
But most of my competitors, they just train hard every day.
I see.
Like I
Okay.
mentioned, 9 or 10 hours of my
Hmm.
week, and they train about, I would say, 24 to 25 hours a week,
Ooh,
which is quite
wow.
a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how those Indian Army guys are doing, but probably the Army encourages them to for that, obviously. So they have probably time, especially allotted
Yes.
to training. Yeah, 24 hours is
Yep.
almost pro level, and
Yeah,
you're
they actually do it at a professional level. So that's what they do. They train and compete in races. So
Mhm.
they've been doing really well. They've won medals, gold medals at the South Asian Games.
Yeah,
Nationals are always won by the services guys. So not to undermine their effort and their hard work, they're really hardworking. But I feel that if they had more data, more statistics to look at, I they would really be at another level.
Hmm. And the Army guys are
Scientific
also,
training, basically.
yeah, the Army guys are also so regimented from an early age, ever since they
Absolutely.
got incorporated into the Army. So triathlon is just, it's nothing new for them. I mean, they already have the habits in
Exactly.
place, so, um,
And plus, most of them are from the northeast of India,
yeah,
which is completely altitude based, and
yeah,
they
yeah.
have excellent air quality over there, and they've
Hmm.
been brought up in altitude. So that always makes a difference when you're growing up and training in altitude.
I guess I don't know if Mr. Saikam is from. Is he from Sikkim or is he from Himachal or Leh? One of these three.
I I think Sikkim. Even I'm not
He's
sure,
in,
but I think Sikkim.
he's in
Sikkim or
Sikkim. Yeah,
Assam, one of the two.
yeah. High altitude. They probably have an advantage, and they've born and brought up there, lived there for so many generations as well. Um,
Yes.
okay, that's so. So come to Dubai. I mean, what did you take from that event? I mean, this was your first time participating, and you put in a 444. Were you
Yeah.
satisfied coming out of it? Did you feel you could have done something more? Did you race by RPE in cycling?
Uh, so honestly, I was pretty happy with the swim,
Yeah,
36 minutes, because
yeah.
I just I knew that I hadn't put the amount of effort I should have in training, and I still got a 36 minutes time, which I was actually hoping
Happy. Yeah,
for the amount I had put in training. So
yeah.
I I got my swim time as expected, so I was satisfied with that.
Sure.
I was happy with my bike. I had trained well for the bike, I would say. Um, I raced with power again, but this time I had a year of training to get
Hmm.
used to power.
Sure.
So I was good with the negative splitting. I had done my research of the course, so I knew where to take the power up, where to keep it down.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so the bike I was again satisfied with. The run, like I mentioned, I didn't have the mileage in my legs throughout the year
Yeah.
in training.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got off the bike, the first 2 kilometers, my quads completely cramped up, like
Hmm.
really badly. And even though my hydration, nutrition, all of it was good on the bike, I had planned for it well. But just because I hadn't trained strength for my
Mm-hmm.
run, I just
Mm-hmm.
lacked the strength, and it took me about 10 to 15 minutes to get out of those cramps, where I really lost a lot of time. 10 to 15 minutes is a big
Yeah.
chunk.
Big chunk. Mm-hmm.
And even after getting out of that cramped up space, I would say, I still couldn't push myself, because if I pushed myself again, I would again cramp up. So I just
Yeah.
had to be
You were
at
being
a
careful.
pace where I just could complete. So not actually happy with the run, but pretty happy with my bike and
Mm-hmm.
my swim.
Yeah.
And honestly, a month before my Dubai race, so I had actually worked quite hard for the bike. I could have done much better for the bike, but a month before my Dubai race, I hit a very low spot. I was going through some very, very bad personal issues just at a very, very crucial time. And that incident that I had to
Mm.
be part of completely broke my motivation to
Mm-hmm.
train, to race.
Yeah.
I had actually considered not taking part in the race. I was at a really bad place at that time, and it took me a lot of time to get out of that place. And going into the race, I was still in that bad place. So I wasn't really in the mental space
Sure.
to race,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
such.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact that I have potential to do much better.
Much better. Mm-hmm.
And again, race is always a learning. I personally, I feel you never get the perfect race ever.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always
That's
something or the other missing.
Yeah, if you're not
And
taking
you always
any
feel like
learning
you
from
can
the
do
race,
better.
there's something wrong, really. I mean, every race, like you said,
Absolutely.
no race is perfect. Um, but yeah, and life happens. You're not training in a vacuum. You got family, you got other issues going on, and certainly
Exactly.
those things affect. So it's not just training load, but it's also all the other things happening on top of that that becomes an extra. It superimposes another load onto you, and
Yes,
you
correct.
still have to get across, get through the training with all that going on, which is important to highlight
Correct.
because that's what you don't see from Instagram. You don't see all the battles people are,
Things
daily
that are
battles.
happening,
Yeah,
yeah,
you don't see
behind the
it.
scenes, what's going on.
So it's easy to get inspired, but then you also have to put all this into context. Many different people are going through different aspects in their lives, and they're still training. So
Correct.
that's
So
that's great. So mhm.
people just see how you're training, how you're racing, the numbers you're getting, the sponsors you're getting, but they don't know the work and the things that have been going on behind the scenes to get to that point.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's actually really stressful. It's not easy. It takes time. You have to be patient. You end up getting injured. You have to get out of injury. So people don't see all that. They just see your timings and where you're standing on that day.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's I don't agree with that at all. But yeah. Um, yeah, and I agree with you. From hearing what you had to say about the run and all that, it's you have much more potential. And in fact, within your age
Oh,
group, you're
yeah,
still not
absolutely.
you're still you. I mean, are you going to do the 2021 Dubai or no?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Are you going to do 2021 in Dubai or no?
I'm not sure yet because
Okay.
I'm still studying, right? I still have exams going on, and the exam dates haven't been declared yet. It's all very, haphazard right now because of the pandemic. So we
Sure.
don't know when college is starting, when we have to appear for our exams. Our
Yeah.
assignments are going on right now. So, I don't really have an idea of how things are going to go forward, but I'll see. I'll decide.
No, yeah, no
I
problem.
had actually registered I had actually registered for the 70.3 Goa in 2020.
Okay. Yeah, that's not going to happen
I
because of the COVID.
exactly.
Have they refunded back the money or
No, they are going to push it to next year.
they push it to next year? Okay, that's fair enough. But we do want to highlight this one last competition you took part in 2020, which was, I think this was an Olympic distance. Correct me if I'm wrong. You went to Chennai in February and you raced with
Yes,
some of the big names like Mr. Saikom. He was there. Some of the other
yes,
guys I've not heard about these fellows, but Adarsh, Mali, and you came sixth in this
yes.
race from the top triathletes in India, I believe. Um, what did you think? What you take away from this race? You performed really well actually. Considering there were like more than that, more than 50. I think almost 50. The field.
Yeah, I guess. So this was the Triathlon Nationals in Chennai, and this was just 2 weeks after my Dubai race.
Okay.
So I was still recovering from the Dubai race, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just physically, mentally also, I was still in that bad place. Like I said, it took me months to get out of that place. So again, going into the nationals, I wasn't in the best physical or mental shape. And it was a good race because, like I've mentioned, I didn't like swimming, and in Chennai they had to cancel the swim on race morning because
Hmm.
of unsafe conditions.
Okay.
So it actually became a duathlon.
Okay.
And yeah, so it became a 5.2K run, followed by a 40K bike, and then a 10K run.
10K run again. Okay. I mean, so looking at the deficits, I mean, um, yeah, about 12 minutes at least. 12 minutes
Yeah,
from the
that's
top
big.
guys. So that's, I mean, what do you say for an Olympic distance? Is that a big gulf to cover? Do you
Oh,
think you can catch up
absolutely.
with?
It's
Yeah,
huge.
it's huge. Yeah.
Again, all the first five guys who finished, they are all from the services, all from the Indian Army. So their running was very very strong, and cycling
Mm.
was, I think I would be okay with cycling with them. That wouldn't be an issue for me. But like we've talked about, I didn't really have the running legs the entire year
Yeah,
because
yeah,
of injuries and less mileage. So I
yeah.
naturally couldn't keep up with them on the run. But if I had to race with them again, cycling wouldn't be an issue at all. Running, I just need to work on my run. So honestly, I feel that positions in a race, they don't really matter as much as the timings do, because it depends. Your position depends on your competition. If you have
Yeah.
really weak competition in a race, there's no point. Personally, that's what I feel. uh, Timings is what I
Mhm.
look at. Just
Yeah,
improving my timing for the better. It doesn't matter what position I finish in.
yeah.
Timings, the aim is to keep improving my timing.
Correct, correct. Yeah, that's very, very, very good point there. Your timings are what matters, not your position, because that can vary depending on what the field is.
Exactly.
But I mean, this was one of the top fields here, and you are about 12 minutes off, but your runs were solid. I mean, 20 minutes for 5K, and then you put another 40 minutes for a 10K after a biking of 1 hour and 9 minutes. So it's superb, I think. But then, yeah, I mean, you know where you stand, and some of those
Yep.
guys are pretty good, but you are still quite up there, Mihir, and I think you have a lot of potential. Uh,
Oh, a long way to
a
go.
lot
And
of
I've
lot.
realized that now, that after getting out of running injuries, after, now I'm not with Chaitanya Velal anymore, who was my coach. I'm training on my own. I'm racing on my own now. So this lockdown period was a really, really good time for me to
Yeah,
get my knowledge up, to research a little more about training, see where I was going wrong personally, and fix those mistakes of mine in training. So now I'm just doing a lot of trial and error with myself. I
sure,
think this is
sure.
the best time to do that, because there are no events also right now, and I'm not really training for anything. So I'm just going out there and seeing what works
Mm,
best for me. I'm
yeah,
trying different diets, different sleep routines, and I think I'm getting close to setting a proper routine for myself, which will be ideal for me.
yeah. Is Lionel Sanders an inspiration for you? He does a lot of the things you talk about. He's
Oh,
also
absolutely.
self-coached, and he likes trying out different things himself. He likes to fold up his sleeves and try things himself. He's not
Yeah.
coached by anyone, and he's certainly a great
You
athlete.
know, honestly, any pro up there is an inspiration for me, because I can relate to the amount of work that they've put in to get there. It's absolutely insane, the numbers that they put out, the timings that they get.
Yeah,
And each one of them is an inspiration for me, not just one, not just Jan Frodeno, or not just Alistair Brownlee. It's like all of them up there are on another level altogether.
absolutely. Yeah, we need people to look up to and learn from. So awesome, Mihir. I mean, like I totally agree. You have a lot of potential, and unfortunately, because of this year and the way it's been, you don't have much races to compete in. But hopefully, that changes very soon, and you can put all
But
these
again,
things you've learned to the test.
that has been a blessing in disguise for me too, because I've got a lot to learn about myself
Yeah,
and about training in these past few months, which
yeah,
I couldn't have done if I was training for one specific event, because I
mm,
wouldn't really get the time to sit down and read and learn about stuff.
hmm
I
hmm
would just be training, and not learn about new things.
What do you do, Mihir? Do you look at your past performances? Or are you reading books? What do you mean? How do you learn? How do
So
you?
I've registered for the Training Peaks Premium feature, which is a
Oh,
completely you know it's a different weapon altogether, I feel.
okay, okay,
And I read books. I have been reading the Triathlon Training Bible, the Cycling Training Bible.
okay.
I read up on the internet. I watch YouTube videos about training,
Sure.
about things to learn. So a lot
Yeah.
of different
Very good.
inputs coming in. I learn a lot from some of my competitors in India who I'm friends with, uh, how they are training, what works for them.
Sure.
Actually, I in the lockdown period, we had online virtual sessions going on cycling indoors, and we just used to train together. So Rajendra Bhaskar, actually a very strong
Yeah.
triathlete from India.
Yeah.
I got a lot to learn from him. Nihal Beg, another excellent triathlete from India. I would say currently one of the best to
Mhm.
compete with Mr. Saikom. A lot to learn from Nihal. So yeah, I'm like I said, young. I'm young. Still a lot of potential.
Mm.
Still a lot to learn, and I'm using the help of the senior guys to get up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've
That's
been kind enough to help me, and I
yeah.
hope they continue
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
so.
Soak up as much as you can at this age. You should be like a sponge,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
those guys, they're probably so advanced in their sporting careers. They would love to help out someone younger also. So it's like you're kind of I don't know, you're appealing to their sort of expertise as well. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
like that in turn. So we're short on time, but I mean that's a good recap. Mihir walked us through his sporting career, how he got into triathlon, and then he touched upon a few key topics that he's passionate about. One is training consistently, and then he talked about rest and recovery, which this session will be recorded. Some of you have to rewind and go back to the things he said about rest and recovery. Very important. And then the importance of starting any sport, and especially triathlon, early in life. And maybe some of the things like swimming really gives you a good cardio base for the rest of the sports in triathlon. So um, yeah, but it's never too late to start. But if you have a chance, or if you have a kid, and if you want them to excel in this sport, put them into triathlon early. So that's great. We had a few questions come in earlier, so I had to stop them so we could finish up this session. So guys, please unmute yourself one by one, and then you can ask me here your doubts and questions. Srini, maybe you want to go?
Yeah, regarding power meter, I mean training based on power meter. So how much does it make a difference with respect to training on feel or with heart rate monitor?
Okay, so the thing is, I'll talk about heart rate training versus power training as briefly as I can. The thing with heart rate training is that once you reach a specific heart rate in a specific interval or just a ride, any ride, when you reach a specific heart rate, even or a ride or a run, I'll just talk about a ride right now, purely a ride. When you're on a cycling ride, when you reach a specific heart rate, it takes time for that heart rate to come down if you stop pedaling, right? So if you stop pedaling, there is a lag before your heart rate comes down on your device. But if you're training with power, if you stop pedaling, your power immediately goes down to zero. So if you're following some type of interval, or if you're following a specific workout, and if you have a coach, your coach won't be able to make out that you've actually stopped putting in the effort when you're on heart rate. But if you're on power, you have to continuously keep moving your legs, otherwise your power is just going to go down to zero, and there is a drop in your graph. But that drop in your graph won't be as prominent as it would be uh, if you're on heart rate. So
That
basically
is
there is a
true.
lag.
Yeah, that is 100% correct. But then I was talking about something, a mixture of riding by feel. Like
Yeah.
you may not have to stop pedaling. I mean, you can just go on feel and then analyze using heart rate monitor, something like that. A mixture of that.
Yeah, but the thing is, then other factors come into play, like terrain, weather, the kind of surface you're training on. All these factors are irrespective when you're training with power. If you've set your if you're talking about a race, if you've set your goal to a specific time and you have heart rate with you, you won't be able to pace yourself as efficiently as you would be able to with power because there are external factors affecting your heart rate and your feel. But with power, you can just trust the power numbers and go in your race, and even in training.
What Mihir is saying is that, look, power, for RP, for example, it can be a cheap power meter, or a cheap surrogate for power if you want, if you can't invest in a power meter. And certainly some studies have proven that there is a correlation between the two. But what he's saying is that, say you were training on 2 occasions on the same day, but on the daytime you had radiant sun hitting your skin and you were more or less doing, running at the same heart rate. But in the night when the sun was down, you went again for the same heart rate, but you had a different feel. You felt more easier to do it. So these ambient weather conditions can play with what your sensations, how easy or how tough you feel. So that can interfere with it. That's what Mihir is saying. So if you want a completely objective way to train, then you need a power as a data source. It's nothing like it's no different than training for squats, or trying to hit a benchmark in your bench press in the gym. You're not going to go by, well, you will go by feel of, but more or less you're concerned with the weights you have stacked on the dumbbell. So it's kind of like that in cycling. You're applying torque, you're lifting weight in a rotational motion. So you do have to know what how much it is you're lifting. So think of the gym, the weight stacked on the dumbbells, or the barbell, and think of cycling as, it's an analog of the weights. If you want a knowledge of how much weights you're pedaling in a circle, then or how much load you're taking, then you need power. Okay, Srini? Hope it's
Yes.
clear now. Yeah. Okay.
Probably
Next
it will help
question.
you to push harder.
Anyone else? Any other question for me here regarding training, his competitions?
And you talked about swimming helping in cycling performance. So does that work for like few cyclists? I mean, who's not into triathlon?
Okay, I would say it's great for recovery. It's definitely, if you're going to be consistent at swimming, it's definitely going to help your cycling also, because you're going to recover well. Your lung capacity might increase a little bit. It's a good de-stress method from your original cycling training. So it'll help you mentally also. You feel better in the pool. So there's no downside to training, cross training with swimming. It's definitely going to help in some way or the other.
Okay, understood.
And that's why duathlon and triathlon is 2 different things. I mean, load wise, duathlon is just subjecting you to impact force.
Absolutely.
I mean, you got 2 runs and it's a totally different field. Triathlon, you're coming out of the water in that first leg. So, it's a bit more, but then because you're coming out of the water and water is helping you with buoyancy, you do feel a little strange coming onto. So that adds a little bit of a different feel to it. But, but the water certainly, absolutely, I agree with Mihir. It certainly help. Even just dipping your leg into the swimming pool.
It just naturally, it feels better.
Yeah, it does. We got a couple of viewers here. Do you guys have any questions? If not, then we'll let Mihir go, as it's getting late. But we have recorded this session for the benefit of everyone who couldn't attend. If you have other questions, you can certainly put it on WhatsApp, and Mihir will be happy to answer it there. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Mihir, for your time. It was a very insightful discussion, and like
Thank
you
you
said,
for having me.
keep learning as much as you can. Really, you're inspirational in that way. You're someone who you're very passionate about the sport. That's why you want to learn every aspect of it and ask other people and learn from them and stuff. So that's certainly something we can all learn. So thank you so much, Mihir, for your time. Thank you for the audience, and until next time, we'll see you. Thank you. Cheers.